Morning, my friends. I am Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on a magnificent Monday. What a day we had yesterday. Great day in the Lord. Hope that you had one too. Hope that you have a great week this week. Remember, this is the day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Right now, join me in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, picking up in verse 5. Remember, Paul has had this battle for all of his ministry, trying to persuade people that he was an apostle. God had called him. Jesus had called him, separate from the 12, but an apostle nonetheless. Look at what he says in verse 5. For I consider that I am not at all inferior to the most eminent apostles. Even though I am untrained in speech, yet I am not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly manifested among you in all things. Now, there were still some at Corinth that were saying things about him, and he was responding in the letter. Number one, they were saying he's not really an apostle. Number two, they were saying that he is a lousy speaker. Let's talk about that for just a minute, because Paul was a Pharisee by training. He knew how to speak. He knew how to powerfully persuade. We see that in several of the messages that are presented in the book of Acts for us. We know that he could hold his own with trained philosophers and religious leaders. So I think this was just some petty stuff coming out of the church at Corinth that he was talking about. And he was being sarcastic. He said, even though I'm untrained in speech, yet I'm not in knowledge. But here's the main part of this. He says, but we have been thoroughly manifested among you in all things. What he's saying is, you've seen me for who I am, inside out, beginning to end. You know my heart. And that's the key here. They needed to know his heart for them, that he loved them as the man who started the church, as the one who had led many of them to salvation in Christ. They needed to understand how passionate he was for them so that they would listen to him. Sometimes when you don't want to listen, you just throw insults and you make reasons not to pay attention. And that's what I think the church at Corinth was doing. Now, verse 7. Did I commit sin in humbling myself that you might be exalted, because I preached the gospel of God to you free of charge? I robbed other churches, taking ministers from them to minister to you. Now, again, sarcasm. I think Paul had that gift, and he used it well. And what he's trying to get across to them is that it wasn't wrong for him that he came to them humbly, preaching the gospel, not asking for anything in return, because other churches were meeting his needs. And that was the way that it tended to go. When he would leave one town to go to the next, that town that he had left would support him while he ministered to the next town. Well, I kind of have a feeling what happened was, when he left Corinth, there wasn't a whole lot of support for him. Even though he'd been there a long time and developed a lot of relationships, I think that the people there were still carnal. They were still fleshly. They were still thinking all about me. That's what it was. It's all about me. And Paul says, verse 9, and when I was present with you and in need, I was a burden to no one. For what I lacked, the brethren who came from Macedonia supplied, and in everything I kept myself from being burdensome to you, and so I will keep myself. He's defending himself. I have a feeling there were probably some folks there who are saying he was in it for the money. Look, Paul could have done a lot of things with his life if he was in it for the money. If he would have been a full-time tent maker, he probably would have been quite well off. If he had been a Pharisee and maintained his standing as a Pharisee, he would have been a wealthy man, because most of the Pharisees were quite wealthy. People paid them to teach and to lead and to do other things. But Paul says, I humbled myself, didn't exalt myself. I came to you, and I know you didn't think I could speak very well, but I didn't ask anything from you. I didn't ask you to support me, and other churches did. And what he's trying to get across here is that he was not a burden to them. Now, end of verse 10. As the truth of Christ is in me, no one shall stop me from this boasting in the regions of Achaia. Now, it's one thing if he were boasting about good things. He's boasting about their lack of desire to help him, to minister to him, to support him in his ministry. I know that I've said this a lot as we worked our way through these letters to Corinth, but one of the key themes in all of this, and I believe God is using it today in our 21st century, churches, you need to take care of your pastors. You need to pay them. You need to support them. You need to take care of them. I'm blessed at First Baptist. Our staff is blessed at First Baptist. Our church takes care of us quite well. If you're not taking care of your pastor, do some reevaluating. Think about that. Be blessed. I'll see you back here tomorrow.